I shot my lover in the knee with his own hunting rifle. Not to kill him, but to make him crawl like the snake he was, right through the front door of the man whose life he'd ruined. The old bastard in the wheelchair, the one I'd wiped the asses of for 5 years, watched with eyes like cracked porcelain. And for the first time since the accident, he laughed, a wet, rattling sound that chilled me deeper than any winter in this godforsaken Ohio town. And just like that, the son I'd protected, the monster I'd buried secrets for, became the patient on my operating table of revenge, while I wondered if I was the villain in someone else's story. Part 1. The Nurse's Vow. My name is Annabelle Hayes. And if you told me 5 years ago that I'd end up slinging bedpans in a crumbling Victorian house on the outskirts of Cleveland, I'd have laughed in your face. Back then, I was a fresh-faced RN with dreams of scrubbing into ORs at the Cleveland Clinic, trading shifts for a shot at something bigger than minimum wage and microwave dinners. But life in the Rust Belt has a way of grinding those dreams into rust. Same as the steel mills that choked the Cuyahoga back in the day. Bills piled up like snowdrifts after my mom passed cancer. Quick and merciless, and suddenly, home health gigs were my lifeline. That's how I landed in the lap of Elias Harlan, quadriplegic millionaire recluse, and his golden boy son, Tommy, who I swore was the devil in distress jeans. It started innocent enough, or as innocent as caregiving gets when your patient's a bitter old coot who made his fortune fracking shale in Pennsylvania before a freak fall left him trapped in that goddamn chair. Elias was 78, skin like yellowed parchment stretched over bones, voice a gravelly whisper from the trach tube I'd suction twice a day. The house was a relic, peeling wallpaper, chandeliers coated in dust motes that danced like ghosts in the afternoon light filtering through lace curtains. I'd drive out from my cramped apartment in Lakewood 3 days a week, clocking in at 8 sharp to handle meds. Point. And the endless parade of humiliations that came with keeping a man like him alive. Tommy was the wild card. 28 and built like a linebacker gone to seed, broad shoulders under flannel shirts, tattoos snaking up his arms from some half-assed stint in the Marines before he washed out. He lived in the guest house out back, drifting in and out like smoke from the chain-smoked Pall Malls he bummed off me when Elias wasn't looking. "You're too pretty for this shit, Annie," he'd say, leaning against the kitchen counter with that crooked grin, the one that crinkled his blue eyes and made my stomach flip despite myself. We'd talk for hours after my shifts about the Browns' latest choke job, the opioid ghosts haunting every corner of this town, how he'd scored tickets to a Cavs game once and blew it on a bender. He called me Annie, like we were old flames. And damn if it didn't feel good after nursing my own wounds from a string of bad dates. The betrayal crept in slow, like black mold behind the baseboards you don't notice until the walls cave. It was 6 months in when I found the first crack. Elias had a bad night, spasms ripping through his legs, monitors beeping like angry hornets. I was changing his catheter when Tommy burst in, reeking of Jack Daniels and desperation. "Dad's stash," he slurred, rifling through the nightstand drawer. I slapped his hand away, but not before he palmed a vial of Dilaudid, Elias's pain meds, the good stuff that could have eased a dozen real patients' suffering. "Tommy? What the hell?" I hissed, but he just winked, like it was our little secret. That night, over lukewarm coffee in the kitchen, he spilled it. Elias wasn't just paralyzed, he was poisoned by his own greed. Tommy swore his old man had cooked the books at Harlan Energy, siphoning millions into offshore accounts to dodge the feds after the 2010 Deepwater Horizon mess rippled through the industry. But the fall? Not freak at all. Elias had tumbled down the basement stairs, pushed, Tommy claimed, by a disgruntled foreman Elias stiffed on severance. Tommy covered it up, called it an accident to protect the family name, the legacy. He deserved it. Annie. The man's a vampire, sucked the life out of everyone around him. And me, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. Hell, I even helped. When the cops came sniffing around for a routine wellness check, I fudged the timeline on Elias's chart, said he'd been unsteady all week from the vertigo meds. Tommy kissed me for it, right there in the hallway, tasting like whiskey and lies. From there, it snowballed. Tommy's borrowing turned to outright theft, Elias's watches pawned for coke runs, credit cards maxed on Vegas weekends where he'd ghost me with texts like business trip, babe, miss you. I'd lie awake in my studio, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, convincing myself it was love. He was broken. I told myself, just like this town, abandoned factories with for sale signs flapping in the wind, kids shooting up in parking lots because the American dream died with the union jobs. I was his anchor, the one good thing in his storm. But anchors drag you under, don't they? The real gut punch came on a muggy July 4th. Fireworks popping like gunfire over the lake. Elias had coded, heart racing from the heat, dehydration turning his veins to dust. I called 911, but Tommy intercepted, slamming the ambulance doors shut before they could load him. He's fine, he barked at the paramedics, then turned on me with eyes wild as a cornered coyote. You breathe a word about the meds missing, and I'll bury you both. He wasn't bluffing. That night, he confessed the rest. The fall hadn't been a foreman. It was him. A fight over the money. Elias threatening to cut him off. Tommy's hands shoving hard enough to snap vertebrae like dry twigs. He made me, Annie, pushed me into that war. Then yanked the rug when I came back fucked up. It's justice. Justice. The word tasted like battery acid. I'd spent months charting Elias's decline, holding his hand through the nightmares where he muttered about betrayal and my boy, thinking it was the morphine talking. But no, I'd been complicit, shielding a murderer because his sob story tugged at my Midwestern heartstrings, the ones tuned to second chances and family first. The secret festered, a tumor in my chest. I quit smoking for him, started saving for a ring I never got, all while Elias withered under my care, his eyes pleading in ways words couldn't. By fall, the leaves turning blood red on the maples lining Route 83, I was done playing nurse to ghosts. Tommy proposed over takeout Chinese, fortune cookies cracked open to a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, which he twisted into poetry about us running away to Florida, starting fresh with Elias's hidden cash. I said yes. The ring a cheap cubic zirconia that caught the fluorescent light like fool's gold. But as I slipped it on, I saw Elias in the doorway, his chair humming softly, mouth agape in silent accusation. That night, alone in the guest house while Tommy snored off a six-pack, I rifled through his duffel. Tucked in a sock was a flash drive, emails, ledgers, proof of Elias's fraud. But twisted, Tommy had been the one laundering it, skimming for years, setting his father up as the fall guy before the push. Betrayal doesn't hit like a thunderclap, it's a slow bleed. I confronted him at dawn, coffee pot hissing on the counter like my rage. You used me, I whispered, voice cracking. He laughed cold, like Elias's that first time, and grabbed my wrist. We all use what we got. Annie. You think nursing's noble? You're just another leech on the teat. he twisted, hard enough to bruise. And that's when I knew the monster wasn't the sun. It was the lie we'd both fed. I didn't leave.
Not yet.
Revenge isn't a light switch. It's a fuse, sputtering in the dark. I started small, overdosing Tommy's coffee with his own stash of Adderall, watching him jitter through job interviews he never intended to take. I'd whisper doubts into Elias's ear during feeds, planting seeds about the boy's hands, always so restless. And at night, I'd drive the back roads, windows down, wind whipping my hair like Medusa's snakes, plotting the unraveling. Cleveland's underbelly fed it, whispers and dive bars off Detroit Avenue about Harlan Energy skeletons, ex-employees nursing grudges deeper than Lake Erie silt. One name kept surfacing: Rita Voss, the forewoman Elias fired after the spill, now slinging shots at a Polish hole-in-the-wall in Slavic Village. Rita was a chain-smoking bull dyke with arms like oak branches and eyes that had seen too many layoffs. Over pierogies and Zabrowka. She spilled. Elias hadn't just fracked, he'd poisoned wells, buried reports, left families like hers choking on methane fumes.
Tommy?
He'd been the enforcer, roughing up whistleblowers, including her brother, who OD'd on fentanyl 6 months after. Kid's a chameleon, she growled, ash flicking onto the scarred formica. Smiles like a choir boy, strikes like a viper. I bought her rounds, traded stories of my mom's chemo bills, and by last call, we had a pact, her testimony for my silence on the push. But silence is a currency that buys nothing when trust is already spent. Winter clamped down hard that year, snowplows groaning through the night like wounded beasts. Elias caught a UTI, fever spiking to 103, delirium turning him into a prophet of doom. The sun. The serpent, he'd rasp, fingers twitching toward the call button I'd accidentally disabled. Tommy hovered, paranoid, rifling my purse for the flash drive I'd swiped and hidden in my glove box. Our fights escalated, him accusing me of fucking the pharmacist, me hurling plates that shattered against the slate floor like my illusions. The ring came off one night after he backhanded me over a misplaced Vicodin. I swallowed the blood from my split lip and smiled, tasting the copper promise of payback. By spring, the fuse burned short. I hacked Tommy's email, basic shit. Password Elias Sucks 69, and forwarded the ledgers to an anonymous tip line at the EPA. Whispers turned to howls, headlines in the plain dealer screaming, Harlan air and hot water, fraud probe looms. Tommy flipped, blaming Elias's ghostwriters. Then me, you meddling bitch, but I played dumb. The loyal fiancé, with alibis ironclad as the steel bridges spanning the river. Elias, sensing the shift, began to talk, hoarse confessions about Tommy's rages, the money trails he'd followed too late. Save yourself, girl, he wheezed one afternoon, as I adjusted his pillows. He's poison. I didn't save him. Not from the pneumonia that hit like a freight train in April, rattling his chest until the hospice doc signed off on morphine drips. Tommy was in Pittsburgh, schmoozing investors, when Elias flatlined, me holding the line, whispering, "It's over," as the monitors wailed. I called it natural causes, but in my heart, I'd eased the drip just a hair too fast. Mercy killing? Or the first stroke of vengeance? The line blurred. Same as the Ohio fog rolling off the lake. Funeral was a farce. Black suits in the drizzle. Tommy clutching my hand like a lifeline while Rita's shadow loomed in the back pew. Eyes promising fire. He inherited everything. The house, the tainted fortune, me as the grieving widow-to-be. But as we drove home in the hearse's wake, his hand on my thigh, I felt the rifle under the seat, Elias's old Remington, cleaned and loaded. The hook was set, now to reel in the monster. Summer 23 baked Cleveland into a skillet, humidity clinging like guilt. Tommy morphed overnight, grief turning him into the prodigal son, suits tailored sharp as switchblades, schmoozing at Chamber of Commerce mixers where the air reeked of cologne and corruption. "For Dad," he'd say, clinking glasses with the old guard, the ones who'd golfed with Elias at the country club before the spill soured the greens. I played along, arm candy in sundresses that hid the bruises fading to yellow, smiling through teeth gritted like the gears in the mills that built this city. But revenge is a jealous lover, demanding solitude. I'd slip out to the library in Tremont, poring over microfiche on Harlan Energy's sins, leaked memos yellowing like old teeth, photos of cracked aquifers mirroring the fissures in my soul. Rita became my oracle, meeting in her trailer off St.
Claire?
Where the AC wheezed and the fridge hummed gospel from a Pentecostal station. Twists coming, she'd warn, passing a joint that I waved off. Tommy was flipping scripts again, charming the feds with a whistleblower act, painting Elias as the sole sinner while burying his own tracks in legalese from a Pittsburgh firm. "He's a shapeshifter," Rita spat. "One day ally, next enemy." Watched him do it to my kin. She wasn't wrong. By August, the probe heated up, subpoenas slapping the mailbox like foreclosure notices. Tommy turned on me in the garage, tools clanging as he paced. "You know something, Annie? Spill it." His fist connected with the workbench, knuckles splitting. But it was my flinch that broke him.
"Fuck.
You're scared of me now." I nodded. "Tear's strategic." And he crumpled, hugging me like a lifeline, sobbing apologies into my hair. "I can't lose you two. Marry me for real. Next week. We'll liquidate. Bolt to Austin music scene. Tech money. Leave this shithole behind." The proposal was a grenade. Pin half pulled. I said yes again. This time to the devil's bargain. The wedding was shotgun courthouse on a Tuesday. Elvis impersonator presiding in a white jumpsuit that sweated through like our vows. Rita boycotted, but sent a card. "Watch your back,
sister."
Snakes shed skins, not souls. We honeymooned in the Pocono North, heart-shaped tub. Champagne that tasted flat, where Tommy confessed more fragments. The push was self-defense. Elias lunging with a letter opener over the ledgers. He'd have killed me.
"Annie."
For the money. For everything. Lies layered like sedimentary rock. But I nodded, tracing the scar on his forearm from Namibia, the deployment he never served. Back home, the house felt haunted, Elias's chair in the foyer, a throne for phantoms. Tommy dove into damage control, liquidating assets, the fracking leases sold to a Texas outfit, the lake house flipped for crypto speculation. I managed the books, siphoning pennies into a Cayman account Rita's nephew set up, digital laundering, untraceable as sin. Nights, he'd fuck me like atonement, rough then tender, whispering futures that dissolved at dawn. But dawn brought doubts, anonymous emails pinging my burner phone. Tips from Rita's network about Tommy's side gigs, shaking down ex-employees for hush money, a brawl at a Parma strip club where he pistol-whipped a dealer over bad product. The flip came in September, leaves crisping underfoot as we walked the prod to Edgewater Park. Lake Erie slapping the shore like accusations. "I know about the flash drive," he said casually, tossing a pebble into the waves. My heart jackknifed. Had he found my copy? Dad's old one. Hidden in the basement. Full of his dirt. Relief soured to suspicion. He was probing.
Testing.
That night, he proposed we hire a PI, clean the slate, expose the real crooks. Together, Annie. Us against the world. But his eyes flicked to my phone. The one buzzing with Rita's texts. He circling. Get out. I didn't. Instead, I circled back. Infiltrating his world meant playing dirty, flirting with his poker buddies at the yacht club, loose lips sinking ships over Manhattans. 1. A weaselly accountant named Vic. Spilled. Tommy wasn't just covering. He was escalating. Post Elias. He'd torched a rival's warehouse in Youngstown, arson to corner the market on pipeline parts, killing a night watchman in the blaze.
Accident. Big Shugja.
But his tremors said murder. I pocketed the intel. Forwarded to the feds via Rita's proxy. Anonymous as a confessional. Tommy sensed the noose. Fights turned feral. He'd smash mirrors. Shards glittering like his fractured facade. Then beg forgiveness with roses from the corner bodega. You're my rock.
Annie.
Without you. The without hung. A threat veiled in vulnerability. I started sleeping with the Remington under the bed. Its weight a cold comfort. Culture clash hit hard. Thanksgiving at his aunt's in Shaker Heights. Turkey drying under the heat lamps while he regaled with tales of rebuilding the empire. I smiled through pie. But inside, the Rust Belt rage boiled, generations screwed by men like him. Families fractured like the land he poisoned. Climax brewed in November. Election night static on the TV as Trump's 16 reruns looped in Tommy's paranoia. The EPA raided at dawn, black SUVs crunching gravel. Agents in windbreakers swarming like locusts. Tommy bolted from bed, gun in hand, screaming, "It's her!" The nurse bitch sold us out. But I was calm, robes cinched tight, offering coffee to the lead agent, a no-nonsense broad from Detroit with a badge that gleamed like justice. Check the safe, I said softly, pointing to the study. Inside, the original ledgers, Tommy's fingerprints fresh from last night's panic. He lunged then, feral, slamming me against the wall, photos crashing, glass splintering like our myth. You fucking Judas. Spit flecked my cheek. His grip iron on my throat. The agent tossed him, crackling blue arcs dropping him like a felled oak. As they cuffed him, knees bloodied on the Persian rug, he locked eyes with me, not rage, but pity. You think this ends it? Dad's ghost. Your guilt, it's in you now. Hauled away. He vanished into the system, RICO charges stacking like cordwood. Relief?
Nah.
It was hollow, echoing the empty house as I packed Elias's things. Rita showed up with whiskey, toasting to the reckoning. But as we sat on the porch, wind chimes tolling like bells, she dropped the bomb. The watchman? Her cousin. I'd avenged her blood without knowing, but in doing so, painted myself accomplice, falsified charts. The morphine drip. We're all monsters in the mirror. Annabelle, she said, clinking glasses. Tommy's trial loomed, but so did mine, internal whispers from the hospice board, anomalies in Elias's chart. Winter whispered warnings. I drove to the courthouse in snow squalls, testifying as the devoted caregiver, my words a tightrope over perjury. Tommy, orange jumpsuit, flipped again, pleading not guilty, blaming Elias's cult of control, me as the seduced pawn. Jurors shifted, some nodding at his teary mea culpa. others hardening at the evidence pile, forensics tying him to the arson, the push, the fraud. Verdict hung like a noose, hung jury on the murder count, guilty on the rest. 20 to life. No parole. I walked free, but freedom's a cage with bars of what-ifs. Tommy's last letter smuggled out. You nursed him, but I birthed the beast. Forgive me, or join me. Burned it in the sink. Flames licking the porcelain like tongues of absolution. But the twist gnawed. Rita's nephew. The Cayman guy? Tommy's plant. Skimming my skim for his own cut. Betrayal's echo chamber. Whose side was I on? Spring 24 thawed the ground, but not my bones. The house sold quick, some flipper from Columbus eyeing a Reno into Arabs for the Rock Hall tourists. I pocketed enough to bolt, landing a gig at a VA clinic in Akron, trading bedpans for vets with ghosts of their own. Days blurred into routine, charting PTSD triggers, dodging small talk about that Harlan mess in the break room, where nurses gossiped like it was a soap opera, not a slaughter. You were in it, right? The son's a psycho, read it in the Beacon. I'd nod, sip vending machine coffee bitter as regret, and wonder if the split lip from Tommy's ring had scarred invisible. Rita faded out, moved to Toledo after the feds grilled her on the tip line, leaving voicemails like breadcrumbs. Stay sharp,
Sister.
Snakes hibernate, but solitude's a liar. It amplifies the voids. Nights. I'd scroll Tommy's old Facebook, frozen in time. Him grinning with a fishing pole at Put-in-Bay. Caption, Lake life with my girl. Blocked now. But screenshots haunted my gallery. Pixels of the man I'd loved before the mask slipped. Therapy? A joke. The VA shrink prescribed Zoloft. But pills don't dissolve the drip-feed mercy, or the raid's chaos. Agents trampling tulips Elias planted in saner days. The real Unravel came in June. Heat wave miraging the turnpike as I drove to visitations. Tommy'd appealed, pro bono from some ACLU-type arguing, abusive upbringing, Elias the abuser-in-chief. See him, the shrink urged. Closure's a myth, but ghosts demand exorcism. The prison was a concrete, crypt off I-71. Razor wire glinting like bad omens. Processing stripped me bare, shoes off. Pat-downs probing like accusations, until I sat in a booth. Plexiglass smudged. Phone receiver greasy as sin. He looked hollowed, buzz cut graying at temples. Jumpsuit hanging loose on the frame I'd once traced in moonlight. Annie, he breathed, voice tinny through the line. No rage, just weariness. You came. I gripped the receiver, knuckles white. For answers.
Tommy.
Not absolution. He leaned in, breath fogging the glass. The push, half-truth. Dad knew about the laundering, encouraged it, said it built character. But the arson. That was for us. The watchman caught me wiring the money to your Cayman account. Thought he was skimming you. Lie or revelation? My pulse thundered. Rita's nephew. The double dip. Tommy's eyes, mirrors to mine, reflected the split. You think I betrayed you? We betrayed each other. You eased his drip 'cause you hated what he made me. I pushed him 'cause he made me hate you first. The visit cracked the dam. Driving back, wipers slashing rain like judgment, I pulled over at a rest stop, vomiting bile and half-truths into the storm drain. Whose crime was it? Elias's empire, built on poisoned earth, birthed Tommy's rage. Tommy's fists forged my complicity. My hands, gloved in latex, delivered the final shove via morphine. The EPA settled, fines crippling the estate. But Tommy's cut funneled to victims' funds, a controversial sop that split headlines. Justice or whitewash? Protests flared in Slavic Village, signs waving Harlan blood money, while Tommy's supporters, blue-collar holdouts, rallied with Free Tommy, framed by the system. I chose a side. Or it chose me. Anonymous donation from the remnants of my payout. $50K to Rita's cousin's family. No note. Just a check that bounced light into their dark. But karma's boomerang. The hospice board circled. Subpoena for Elias's record surfacing discrepancies. My license hung by a thread. Investigation pending. Whispers of manslaughter, if they pinned intent. Tommy wrote again. Join the appeal. Testify, it was mercy, not murder. We're the same. Annie, survivors in a rigged game. Temptation tugged. A siren's call to flip once more. Paint us as anti-heroes against the corporate leviathan. Climax hit in August. Humidity thick as plot. The hearing in federal court, wood paneled like a coffin, packed with press. Rita in the gallery flashing thumbs up. Tommy, shackled but suited, took the stand, a chameleon's swan song, weaving Elias as the puppet master, me as the innocent caught in crossfire. She loved me, Your Honor. Nurse my father when I couldn't, saved us both. Jurors leaned in, some softening at the sob story, others stone-faced at the forensics. My turn, under oath. Sweat beading under the AC's chill. I laid it bare, not the sanitized version, but the raw, the cover-up, the drip, the raid's rage. I thought I was saving him from the monster, I said, voice steady as the gavel's echo. Turned out, we were all monsters. The twist landed like a gut punch. As I stepped down, the prosecutor slid me a file, Tommy's polygraph from intake, buried in discovery. He confessed the arson clean. No watchman threat. Just greed-fueled fire to inflate insurance. The death collateral. But the real bomb? Elias's will. Unsealed post-trial. He'd known the push. Forgiven it in a codicil. Leaving Tommy everything. Contingent on protecting Annabelle. As she protected me. Protection? Or payoff for silence? The courtroom buzzed. Judge banging for order. But the damage rippled. Tommy's appeal tanked. Sentence up to life without. His final flip a desperate bid to drag me down or lift us both. Outside. Rain sheeting the steps like tears. Rita waited with an umbrella. Debate fodder.
Huh?
Hero or villain? I laughed. Bitter as black coffee. Both. That's the American way. Win some. Lose the soul. We drove to Edgewater. Waves crashing judgment. And I scattered Elias's ashes, stolen from the columbarium. Gray grit mixing with sand.
Tommy?
Rotting in Chillicothe. Pen pal to no one.
Me?
License intact on a technicality, mercy ruled. Not malice, but the stain lingers. A tattoo under scrubs. Ending? No tidy bow. I moved to Pittsburgh, chasing a fellowship in palliative care. Ironic. Nursing the dying after hastening one. Dates flicker, a brewpub guy with a beard like flannel. Talks of Steelers' glory days, but trusts a casualty. Buried with the Harlans. Sometimes, in the quiet of ward rounds, I hear Elias's laugh. Tommy's whisper, we're the same. Maybe. Or maybe revenge was the illusion. The real betrayal our own reflections flawed. Fierce. Forever fractured in the heartland's harsh light. Debated over beers. Was Annabelle avenger or enabler? Did Tommy deserve the cage? Or was he society's spawn? Elias the root evil, Or just another cog in the machine that chews up dreams from Cleveland to the Gulf. No sides clean. Just the messy truth of survival, American as apple pie laced with arsenic.